Hey everyone. After reading a couple of comments where people were missing the dulcet sounds of my voice, I thought, you know what? It has been a while and there's a lot of news, so why not make a big update video? So I'm going to give you all the topics we'll be discussing, so stick around. So what are we going to be updating? We're going to give you an update on the next 1966 project that we will be doing this year. We will be talking about the thing you see behind me here, which is the actual production version of the BvS Bat computer Batcave setup. The Penguin, the 1992 Danny DeVito, will have some updates. A little bit of news about the 1992 Catwoman, animated Batman, animated Batmobile, update on the 1966 Batcycle, the upcoming diecast Tumbler, an update about Star Wars, an update about the 1989 Batwing, an update about the next and final test for 12 scale, which is the upcoming 12 scale Batwing, which is two separate topics. Then the status of the 1968 Batmobile, the status of the final production run or batches, basically, of the 1989 Batmobile, which are now coming to a close. Then 1997 Poison Ivy, Julie Newmar Catwoman, and then finally at the end, because people have requested it, a very short video to showcase our complete showroom. So stick around. There's a lot of ground to cover. There's a lot of news to come. So let's talk about the first thing on that list, the 1966 project. We put it to a vote in the group. I promised to include the 1966 Batcave, the 1966 Bat computer, the 1966 Bat boat, Batcopter, and the Black Beauty from Green Hornet. It was a clear winner. The 1966 Batcave is going to be the next project released in this year. I'm going to be doing a little bit more research and design before we put it up to pre-order, so I'm not sure what month we will open the pre-orders for that. Also, because I'm not quite sure what will be included, I'm thinking again there's going to be a regular edition and a DX edition, because the 1966 Batcave is huge, right? So we can't do the whole cave. The only thing I'm very sure of is that the Bat computers and analyzers and the things that blink, we're going to be doing those for sure, and those are going to be included in all versions because that's the most iconic and most requested part. Also, since it's modular, where basically they use the same design but with different top parts and all the details for several of them, that just lends itself very well to what we do. Then there's going to be a couple of desks, analyzers, but then we get to the more variable pieces. There's a glass clear map of Gotham. I think that one's easy to include. But do we include the bat poles, and if so, how much? The other obvious question I will be getting is the atomic stack. For the DX version, it makes sense to do some of it, but it is a very big piece. So it's like, I think somewhere about 30 inches high and wide, at least in 6 scale. And I'm doing this from memory, but it's like 3 stories. So that would make it 36 inches if it's if you stack 3 figures on top of each other. Not sure how much sense that makes, because that might lose a lot of people who don't have the room, which is again why we're thinking about at least doing a basic version where there's a lot of cool small parts that you could just put around your 1966 figures. And if you have it, the 1966 or 1968 Batmobiles that we make, or the batcycle that we're making. So all I can say is it is going to be the next project. It is going to be open for pre-order this year somewhere, I expect before the summer at least. It's going to have at least the Bat computers and some desks. I'm thinking about the poles, the atomic stacks, and of course I'm open to all kinds of other suggestions. But that's all I can tell you for now. So it's going to be the Batcave, 1966 Batcave. There's going to be computers. There's going to be accessories, and then for the DX version, maybe the poles, maybe the atomic stack, maybe part of the atomic stack, but that's still to be determined. Okay? Moving on to, this is hard to do in mirror image, the 1960s, the BvS Batcave. This is the actual production version you're seeing behind you that is in the works right now. So everyone who's ordered it, you're going to be getting that in hopefully the next quarter. There's a whole lot of light up features, as you can see. They're actual working screens, those 6, and then there's all the small screens you're seeing inside the actual desk. Then there's the remote desk chair. You're getting everything you see here, including the floor, the back wall, and the ceiling, and that's going to be flat packed. So the box is actually going to be smaller than a Batmobile, for instance. So there's not going to be huge shipping cost. There's some assembly required to make this a one piece, but don't worry, it's not going to be very complex. So all the screens and the hanging portion, that's all going to be pre-assembled, the desk. So it's basically the walls that need to be put together with corner brackets and all that sort of thing, and then the poles are screwed in like that. It's going to be extremely limited edition. So it's probably going to be like 150 pieces worldwide, most of which have sold already. So if you want to get in on this, I suggest you get in on it now. We're not making any more true scale, so it's only going to be the DX version with the working screens and everything, including the cool chair and everything. So moving on to the Penguin, let me overlay some more cool pictures. Viola has been painting our first prototype of the several head sculpts that I'm also going to be overlaying here to show you the 4 head sculpts. So basically, it's sort of like the Catwoman version, where there's going to be 2 versions, but in this case, instead of like battle damaged and regular, we're going to going with the mayoral version and the sewer version, and then there's going to be basic versions of that with the standard head sculpts, and then if you want more, there's going to be the DX version, which in this case not 2 but 1 extra head sculpt. So if you get the 2-pack, you'll get the sewer version and the mayoral version and 4 head sculpts, as well as a very cool diorama with a piece of the sewer cave, a chair. Then there's the umbrella stand. There's going to be many umbrellas included. So I'm just going to be showing a whole bunch of stuff here and give you some more information. For the Penguin body, we decided to do what we always do and go for maximum accuracy. So we're making a custom body. This is not going to be seamless because there's no need for that. But it's going to be the size of Danny DeVito. And then we're going to make a custom fat suit that is the exact dimension and shape of the original fat suit. Here are some pictures of the original fat suit that was used in the movie. And so then the total look will be as close to what we saw on screen as possible. Plus, we will have as much posability as possible with a body that is basically a standard 6-scale body. The fat suit might limit some, and we don't yet know, depending on what numbers we will do in the sales, whether the combination of the custom non-seamless body plus fat suit is going to be any cheaper than making a custom seamless body. Anyway, this is the way we are going to do the body. Then we're going to make a whole bunch of hands, some gloved for the mayoral version, and then regular hands. We're still working out poses, but I think we have about 21 of them designed. I'll show you here. Then Catwoman, we're currently on V9 or V10 of the body, getting the proportions exactly right while still maintaining some or as much of the articulation as possible with the outfit, with the corset, which is of course quite restrictive. Working with wall thicknesses of the different pieces and all that sort of thing, but we're still on schedule for everything to be as discussed, where the first part of the release is going to be Q1 next year. Then moving on to the animated Batman, we're very close to having a final prototype. Let me show you some of the pictures of the painted head sculpts. We also have the suit ready as well as the body ready. So right now we've been working on a semi-custom body. There's been a lot of talk about, do you make a whole custom body to get like a complete cartoon look? But with the Catwoman, we've seen how much time and work and especially extra money that costs. So right now we're in the process of customizing a standard seamless body with some additional pieces to make it look a bit more like the cartoon, to have the best of both worlds while still keeping the price down a little bit. I will have more to show in the upcoming months. Well, I hope to have the pre-order up in March, but if we don't make that, it's going to be April. Same goes for the Penguin, by the way. Just assume that we'll have the final prototype pictures, and that would be the V1 prototype before we actually start production. So the pre-order prototype pictures of both the Batman and the animated Batman and Penguin will be ready, let's say April, and that's when the pre-orders will go up as well. So for the animated Batmobile, let me show you some pictures for those who are not part of the Facebook group. We're working on the prototype. We have been able to include the free opening hood and engine, so that's at least going to be part of the project, even though the people who signed up early did not pay for that. Everybody's getting that, of course. So that's the first of the upgrades that we're going to be including. We're also, as you know, making two versions. One is going to be the black, slightly weathered version, and the other one is going to be the color shift blue-black version. We've been testing a bit with the color shift, but we're not quite happy with how much color shift there is, so we're still working on that. And that's one of the reasons why it's taking longer than we hoped to have a prototype ready, because that color shift paint is a really tricky thing to do. Batcycle, 1966 Batcycle. Well, in production, most of the time we're still working on the tooling parts of it, and we hope to be ready to ship this in quarter 3 of this year. Many die-cast pieces, more than the actual original vehicle had. All will have a signed plate by Burt Ward, personally hand-signed and numbered by Burt Ward. We've closed pre-orders. We're still accepting people on the wait list for that one. Tumbler. So the reason why it's been taking so long to get the pre-order ready for that is because, so we're going to be making at least 3 versions of the Tumbler, right? So you've got the Batman Begins Dark Knight version, which needs to be scaled up at least 10%, need more details, especially in the cockpit. And then, of course, metal pieces, die-cast pieces. Then there's going to be the Dark Knight Rises version, there's the camo version, and then there's at least 2 other versions with like turrets on top and different guns, maybe even, because the motions are quite simple, maybe even electric, remote controlled on that. But I'm trying to get access to the real screen used version and make a LiDAR scan. And if I can get there, and there's one in London right now, I might do the product launch from that site if I can make that happen. But that takes a whole lot of convincing on many different departments within Warner Brothers, which is why it's probably a long shot and it's taking so long. But as soon as we've nailed down the Tumbler and the versions, pre-orders for that will also finally open, because people have been asking about when are the next projects coming. The latest pre-order was October of last year. We do have to do a number of pre-orders this year to keep going. So that's what's taking so long. I want to do the actual scan and use to make basically a shrunken down version of the actual movie vehicle for this one. Because I think, objectively speaking, the Dark Knight trilogy by Nolan is the most popular by the most of the 6-scale collectors. If I look at the amount of product and sales that the competition has been doing for Heath Ledger Joker and all the other Batman and related and vehicles and all that sort of thing. So we want to do that right. Star Wars update, in case you missed it, we've sent out an email to everybody that we have stopped on Star Wars products, full stop. Basically, at the end of 2024, my accountant looked me in the eyes and said, "What are you doing? You've lost money on pretty much all the last Star Wars projects we've done, and for most of the other stuff, it was either very early days, like 12 pieces here and there, or it was maybe break even." I know, because I love the stuff, I wanted it, but so it just didn't make sense for us anymore. So we pulled the plug on that. We did have a few things in stock, but most of that's also gone now. So no more snow speeders, please don't ask. No more Falcon cockpits, so please don't ask. Basically, all is gone. I have a few more of the meditation chamber, the cargo hold, and race speeder, and that's it. True Scale Death Star, anything Tantive related, carbon freezing chamber, Bespin, none of that. It's all gone. So hit me up, yost@jazzingdioramas.com, or so just email me if you want any of those last boxes. But we're not doing anything anymore. Then for the Batwing, as I've said before, we've shipped out the last, and we still have some parts left that we used for service, so we're going to be building those and just finishing the last of the stock parts. So if you want a Batwing, get on the list, or again, email me, and there's a chance that you will be included in whatever we can make of those last parts that are available. Now, moving on to the Batwing 12 scale. So we've done a poll of that too in the group. And people voted what should be the first and most popular thing to do in 12 scale to test out if it's really viable or not. As you know, we've tried it before. It was dramatically worse than anything we've done. So to give you an idea, I just shipped out the last of the 12 scale BvS Batmobiles we've done. So that took 5 years, and we've only made like 2,500. So that worldwide, and that's for an officially licensed product, that's ridiculously low, and especially if it takes you 5 years to sell that. So the vote, and I tend to agree with the logic here, is that the 12 scale Batwing is very cool, not only for the 12 scale community, but for anyone who missed the 6 scale one and or didn't have the money and or space to do the 6 scale one. So you might have two markets here. So the 12 scale market as well as some of the 6 scale market. So we'll start development of a prototype for the Batwing in 12 scale starting around April. I don't know. So that all the things we've been talking about up until this point, I hope to be able to start pre-orders no later than the summer. But the 12 scale Batwing, that's going to be second half of this year before we're ready to even think about opening pre-orders. And that's going to be a Kickstarter thing, because if I have to cancel it for lack of support again, that's just a lot of work. And so we'll just use Kickstarter. And if it doesn't reach the minimum goal we need, then no harm, no foul for anyone, right? So for people wondering about the size, just go to our website and check out the 6 scale one. We're going to be shrinking that down because the size is accurate. So divide length, width, height by 2, and that's going to be the dimensions for the 12 scale one. 1968 Batmobile, working on the prototype. I've been getting a lot of questions about that. So let me overlay a picture of the real version. So basically the 1968 is less of the idealized version, but much more accurate to what was in most of the show, as well as the movie, and much more accurate to what most of the roadshow vehicles were as well. So if you're a big fan, maybe the 1968 is even a better choice than the 1966. I know the 66 was very popular because it's the idealized version of what people had in their heads. 1968 is going to be much closer to what was actually used. So it's going to be semi-gloss, much flatter. Like, again, I'm going to show you the picture, even though if we check out the hood on this thing and see if we would get away with making it like the actual movie vehicle with all the dents and all that waviness and all that sort of thing. Anyway, but then there's going to be the leather arch on top of the window like you saw for most of the series, and for any roadshow vehicle. And the TV version, the color of red striping is going to be a little bit more towards the pink cherise, so it's not going to be like pink striping. Don't worry about that. But again, closer to the actual vehicle. It's going to be a longer rocket tube, different antennas, differences in the dash, different rims and tires. Again, not the idealized version, not what we used to make like that was shown in the first few episodes of the first season, but like I said, the thinner tires, the ovals, and then the different Raider rims, as seen in the rest of the series and the TV show. I think we'll have a prototype for that to show in March. Then, like I said, 1989, there's 2 more batches to complete before we've completed the run that we were going to make, but most of the people of those are still paying off. So if you want to get it early, you can. We'll have units to ship from the factory to anywhere except Europe starting in the second week of February. So that's next week. If you want it, we'll have plenty to ship because all of the units that we're making now have, of course, been ordered, but are still being paid off. So if you want to jump ahead, you can. Then in Europe, end of February, so in about 3 to 4 weeks, anyone in the EU and the United Kingdom will get theirs. And again, there will be more ready in the European batch end of February than have now been paid off. So if you want to get it, you can pay off early and we'll be ready for you. With the wait list, you can still get on it because we're still we're not ready to, we haven't shipped the final batches. And until you've shipped the final unit, there might be cancellations. And of course, we'll have the spare parts for any time there's an issue or people want an exchange or things get lost. So we'll have some of those units left after the final one ships, which is again what the waitlist is for. If you're interested, get on the waitlist. Then we finally got an approval from Uma Thurman to do 1997 Poison Ivy. We've also gotten approval, by the way, from Arnold Schwarzenegger to do Mr. Freeze. So we're going to be doing a mechanical Mr. Freeze, but that's going to take a lot of work. So I'm not really ready to talk about that. I think Poison Ivy is going to be earlier than that, but there's going to be an officially licensed Arnold Schwarzenegger Mr. Freeze approved by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Same goes for Julie Newmar. She's approved Catwoman. I'm looking for a little bit more feedback on that. So Sean Dabbs is already working on the sculpts for that. We've been in touch with Julie Newmar and her agent. She's open to doing a signature version, but the price for her signature, the shipping back and forth, the production of the plates and all that sort of thing would put the additional fee for those special signature run Julie Newmar Catwoman figures at around $80 extra. So there were like 120 people who thought that would be interesting. I don't know if that's enough to make a signature run. And I don't know how many plates to make and make an agreement with her, but I don't think that was enough for her. So give me feedback. Would you want to pay extra $80 extra for a special signature version? Of course, for those people who aren't interested, you just buy the regular one without the signature plate and save $80 or whatever it turns out to be, maybe 90, right? So I'll overlay the first rough things that Sean has done working on the head sculpt. And that's also something in progress for the second half of this year, together with Poison Ivy for pre-order release. And then finally, let me show you what people have been asking for, a close-up of the showroom and what the stuff you'll see when you get here. So thanks for listening to this huge, long update video. And let me know if you have any questions. It's going to be another very cool year with a lot of very new, very cool projects and products. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned. And until next time, bye.